Well, hello and welcome to Midweek Online. My name is Josh and I'm the youth pastor here at Lifepointe Church. We're so glad that you are with us. So sorry about taking a week off, but we'll be back from here. We'll be here next week, and then we'll even have an edition on Thanksgiving. My wife, who spoke last week in our services, will be able to be with us online. I'm so excited about that. So that's what you have to look forward to, and we got some really cool stuff planned for December for the Christmas season. But anyway, let's get into tonight and the message and just the focus that I want to bring to you tonight. So this is what I want to be in Luke chapter 17 is what we're going to be in. But before we get to the scripture, anytime you're asking someone for something, right? Especially if you're younger and growing up, what do you hear? What are the magic words, right? Absolutely. And what are the magic words? You can drop them in the chat, right? Please and thank you, right? Absolutely. You have to ask please and thank you. Have you ever met somebody who's ungrateful, who doesn't use their table manners and say please and thank you? Somebody who's ungrateful. Man, they can be draining. They can be so draining. They can be a handful. They can even sometimes be annoying, right? Especially like it's the case if you see a toddler and you're seeing a toddler without manners, right? Anytime that there's a toddler without manners that's just a little monster, you're like, where are your parents who created you? Why are you the way that you are, right? Being ungrateful can actually have a lot of other consequences. And it's actually easy to slide into feeling ungrateful. It's easy to not be content. It's easy to look around and want more or to not have enough, in your opinion. Ungratefulness is a very easy thing. What we have to do is fight for thankfulness. We have to fight for thankfulness. And so we're going to read Luke chapter 17. It's a story of these men who were sick, and then it's an encounter that they had with Jesus. Let's read about what happened. It says, "Now on his way to Jerusalem, Jesus traveled along the border between Samaria and Galilee. And as he was going into a village, 10 men who had leprosy met him, and they stood at a distance. And they called out in a loud voice, 'Jesus, Master, have pity on us.' When he saw them, he said, 'Go and show yourself to the priests.' And as they went, they were cleansed. One of them, when he saw that he was healed, came back praising God in a loud voice. He threw himself at Jesus' feet and thanked him, and he was a Samaritan. Jesus asked, 'Were not all 10 cleansed? Where are the other 9? Has no one returned to give praise to God except for this foreigner?' And then he said to him, 'Rise and go. Your faith has made you well.'" Normally I have, your 3-point sermons really packaged up nicely. And I try to do that, repetition and different things so that you guys can understand the information and hopefully it'll stick a little bit more. But tonight, I really just want to focus on one thing, and that is this. We have to fight to give God praise. We have to fight to give God praise. You see, after this healing happens, all of these men take off and they begin to run to tell other people that Jesus had healed them. You see, back in those times, if you had leprosy or any sort of terminal or easily contagious disease, you just got thrown out of society, completely shunned, completely outcasted. You're just completely gone, right? And so they hadn't seen their families. They hadn't lived a normal life in a very long time. And because they were healed, they were now able to rejoin society, to be a part of their families again, and even return to like some of the work and some of the different things that they found themselves doing before they had leprosy. You see, they were made whole again. But what's so interesting is that they called Jesus Master. This is actually one of the only times in the New Testament that someone other than the disciples called Jesus Master. I think it's no coincidence that it was these men who were in need of a healing. They were able to recognize who Jesus was. They weren't just asking him for alms to make it through the day. They weren't just asking him for something. They actually had an expectation that he could heal them and that he could change their life. They were expecting more, but as soon as they are healed, they completely run away and forget Jesus. They leave him in the dust. They're completely unconcerned with who Jesus is or what he has done. What this makes so clear to me is that when we're broken, we see our need for Jesus very clearly. But when we're made whole, most of the time, when we're in a spot being made whole, being restored by Jesus himself, we actually lose sight of him even more. We convince ourselves that we don't need him, right? How many times have we been waiting on a miracle or waiting on a breakthrough or waiting for God to do something miraculous, and as soon as he does it, we move on, take all of the benefits, take all of the perks, if you will, and then we just forget to give him thanks or forget to put him in a spot of honor because of it. See, there's one guy in this entire group who stops in his tracks, runs back, and gives Jesus the praise that he deserved. And he was, by his very identity as a Samaritan, the very one who was not supposed to know who Jesus was or what he was about. Samaritans and Jews did not get along. We don't know how many Samaritans and how many Jews out of these 10 were, but we know that this guy was a Samaritan. He was the one who should have denied Jesus even after he healed him. He should have been able to downplay who Jesus was the most. Yet here he is, and he's able to fall at Jesus' feet. Have you ever been in a rush going out to a place or trying to meet a friend or something, and you get in a rush and then you end up forgetting something, so then you have to rush back in, and then you're in a rush all the first place, right? But what happens is the reason why we get in a rush in the first place is because we forgot either the time, or we forgot to prepare, or we forgot to leave on whatever the case. The reason why we forget things when we're in a rush is because we forgot something at the beginning. This is the only time in the New Testament that somebody recognizes Jesus. This is the first time and the only time in the New Testament that somebody gives thanks directly to Jesus instead of God. Which all this did was affirm that Jesus was who he said he was. So it's easy to use him. It's easy to use and see Jesus as a genie, or use him as a wild card to do whatever we want him to do, but there is so much more on the line. It's not about what Jesus can do for me, but it's about how I can take what he's done and actually point other people back to God. Jesus was telling them to go receive their certificates of healing. Jesus wasn't out to upset the rule of law. He came to fulfill the law, not to abolish it or to throw it out. This was just another way that they were able to do that. And so he was following the Old Testament law of what they would do is when you got healed, you received a certificate. But these men were so much more concerned with the way that society would bring them back into good graces. They were so concerned with their certificates that they forgot to thank the healer who gave it to them in the first place. My closing thought is this: we cannot be more concerned with what we are able to run back to that we forget to give God the praise for allowing us to run in the first place. There's so much to be thankful for. There is so much that we can give God thanks for, but we can't do that if we're always in a rush and we never actually stop to take time to listen to him, to hear his voice, and to be able to build a relationship with him. If you have a friend and you do so many nice things for them, time and time again, they never actually thank you for it. It's not that you do it for thanks. It's not that you do it for that, but hey, it's nice to be recognized every now and then. Take time, pause, reflect, give God thanks. Don't walk through life in a rush. Don't walk through distracted. Don't walk around like the angry, upset toddler who has no manners, because somebody's gonna end up looking at your life. Oh man, where are their parents? Man, I thought that they were a Christian. I thought they represented God. Why are they acting the way that they are? Live a life of thankfulness. It's not easy. You have to fight for it, but it's worth it in the end.